It's just everyone has to be exhausted by politics taking up this much bandwidth.
And not just politics, but tribal politics, like
Yeah.
intensely emotional, psychologically exhausting, emotionally draining, constant conflict, rage, emotional outbursts. This is all heat. There's almost been no light at all. And I certainly think that psychologically I'll admit it, I think he's gotten into my head and has created.
This guy can't
I
understand
have
why
something to
Trump
say.
supporters won't love that. Like, come on. Of course they love it.
I have a shit ton to say about this, actually.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
What he's specifically describing is cognitive miserliness. I talked about this earlier. But the reality is that we as humans only have so much cognitive energy that we can devote to any one topic. He knows he is not wrong. It is psychologically exhausting. And I think that the goal of the left right now is to psychologically exhaust you until they wear you down to going, oh my God, I just want this to be over. I want to go back to my normal life. I want to stop having this stuff that's bombarding my brain all the time. How do I do it? Oh, I vote against Trump.
Mm-hmm.
That's not conspiratorial, I don't think. I think that that's when they bombard you constantly with messages that this stuff is evil and terrible and awful all the time. It's psychologically exhausting. And I think he just confirmed it right there. Well, how do you get rid of the psychological exhausting stuff?
I think you're right in that I wouldn't be surprised if there's people that vote against Trump just because they're like, I'm tired of the news being about Trump 24/7. I'm tired of this being my life.
Right.
But
Just
I don't
tired
think
of it.
it's but I don't think there's an intention there to do that from the news' perspective.
I guess it depends on how smart you think the media is.
I don't think they're that smart. I don't think the people in charge are that smart.
He might be that smart.
Who?
Who's the other guy on here?
Sam?
Sam
Or
Harris, Andrew Sullivan.
Andrew Sullivan. He might be that smart. He might
He's
know
not
that.
that smart.
Maybe. I
No,
mean,
he
I don't
doesn't
know. I think
He
he's being
might be
honest.
aware.
I think he's falling prey to this.
But I
mean,
think that's something that people do want, consciously or unconsciously. I think they just want to go back to their normal lives. They want to grill. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
I just want to
100%.
grill.
The
And they're upset
tribalists
by-
though love this.
Right.
Like they don't want Trump to go away.
Sure.
Are you kidding? The liberals are losing their minds every single day. It's like heaven for them. They've been in heaven for 4 years.
Do you think so? Because I think it drives them insane. I don't think they like it at all. I think it hurts their psychological well-being.
The tribalist, the ideologue.
No, I think the tribalist is fun for them. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think for the pro-Trump tribalists.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's
Yeah.
what he's talking
The
about.
pro-Trump.
Oh, I thought you meant for the anti-Trump tribalists.
No.
Like, I think they're very upset.
Anti-Trump, no.
I think they're very, very upset.
They're
I think
losing
they're in
their
a very,
minds.
they're in like a, they're in like an anti-Trump T-hole. You know what I mean? Like,
they're at the edge of the cliff right now. So,
Yeah.
no.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood because I was like, oh, I don't.
And the
Yeah,
Trump
no.
supporters are like, go ahead, jump. It's not that far. You probably make it.
If the
I don't
polls
know.
turn out to be true, okay, if
Mhm.
the polls turn out to be true and Trump does lose by some wide margin, first of all, it'd be the first time in my lifetime that a candidate ever won running against someone as opposed to running for something, which would be very interesting. And I would probably
It's almost never happened.
It's never happened in my life.
Incumbents don't lose. They
Right.
just don't.
But if it does happen, I would probably intuitively think that it's what you said just now, that there's probably some huge swath of people who aren't super politically attached to anything, but they're just so tired of the situation.
Yeah.
They just go, oh, I want to just grill. I want things to go back to the way they were before Trump was president.
I know people.
I think that's what they're banking on. Sorry, Adam.
Maybe it's intentional. I don't know.
Clinical depression just a couple of months after he was elected. And I'm not saying
See, there you go.
I know he's admitting everything. Like he's
There it
total.
is. There it is. There he is.
joke. I'm saying that having to absorb a crazy person every day that you
Trump has mental illness. I was clinically depressed when he was elected. It's so ironic.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a kind of weird way to phrase that. Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. Okay.
really avoid. It reminds me of those people that have to live in totalitarian regimes where the picture and the face of the dear leader is constantly in your. You can't get away from it. It's on your wall. You have to adhere to it. You have to acknowledge it at every time, so that there is no space left for you to have a time without Trump. And equally,
but what do you make of the fact, though, that there are people, if we haven't already driven them from our audience, there are people listening to us who just don't
Guys, he's talking about us. He's talking about us.
Oh no!
understand this allergy we have to Trump. It's like, so I just kind of ran through, all the reasons why I find him to be a despicable person.
Well, your perception, though, Sam, you ran through your perception of why you perceive him to be a terrible person, but you didn't really show us any evidence.
Yeah, actually, listen to the word he used. Allergy. An irrational, illogical, natural revulsion that has no basis in anything that would make any kind of sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of what
and-
this is. This is a gut emotional, intuitive reaction to Trump's rhetoric and the way he handles himself.
But don't you remember how he was talking about how Trump is only emotion, all emotion? Come on. Don't you remember that, Sitch?
But there are people who just don't see this about him. Honestly, it's so evident to me that I don't really have even a theory of mind for someone who can't see any of this. But I mean,
think it's because
he's a kind of, for me, he's a kind of, and this is, this just plays into the hand of anyone who would accuse me of Trump derangement syndrome, because this kind of has a quasi-Freudian structure. But, he is, like, if you told me that I was going to suffer some kind of neurological illness that would make me exactly like Trump, right? Mm-hmm. I would fucking kill myself.
Oh my God.
I think the last time.
Oh my God.
That's pretty extreme.
You finally found the pause, Abe?
I didn't get this far into this. I listened to a little bit of this beforehand. Oh my God.
Yeah. Crazy.
I don't want people to accuse me of Trump derangement syndrome. I would rather kill myself than be Trump. Okay,
I know.
Sam. Okay.
We're in the context of a conversation about Trump's mental illness. It's so bizarre.
I think I just realized something. I realized why Sam is so disturbed by Trump, because Sam's the guy who was this big advocate that, like, we can have a ethical, moral system without religion that's based on, logic and reason and, people looking out for their own interest. And I think to Sam, Trump's election basically disproves his entire thesis statement, because he sees people liking Trump as so illogical that Trump's existence is like an assault on his atheistic worldview.
It is totally cognitive dissonance. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
His worldview collapsed.
Yeah.
The problem is that his worldview was based on the fallacy.
Totally.
In that people will always,
of course,
always react based on emotions. Doesn't matter that if you think you're the super robotic, turbo brain, perfect atheist. That's not how everyone else is. And by the way, neither are you, Sam. No matter how much you think you are.
Right.
You do stuff based on emotion all the time. You're not a freaking Vulcan. That's just reality. And when you look down on people and disparage people because they act based on their emotions, you look like a big dick. Just saying. You don't look like a cool guy.
I do want to see the movie, though, where they do the body switch, where, Sam Harris sees Trump from across the rally, and then all of a sudden he realizes,
Yes.
oh my God, I am
I'm Donald Trump.
I am Trump. And I want to see how quickly he goes from being suicidal to, like, the tyrant, like the dictator. Yes. He's like, religion, we're making it illegal. Like, Christianity is no longer part of society. Like, that's how quickly he would change immediately.
I would love a Freaky Friday between Sam Harris and Donald Trump.
It would be a horror movie.
That's pretty funny. I like that. I wish that Sam could have a more productive conversation with Scott Adams. I think they only talked once, and it just felt like they never really were able to get anywhere deep into the conversation. It was kind of all surface level.
Yeah, they need to have like a 6-hour sit down. They really do.
Yeah.
But neither one of them is going to do that.
Well, I think it might be too late now, because there's so much psychological energy that goes into once you've made these very strong public declarations.
Oh yeah.
That's like, I mean, I don't know how Sam could back down from any of these positions.
They're sniping at each other on Twitter as we're speaking. I think it's probably still going on.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure.
I
know. We spoke. I think this was in one of my diatribes about Trump, years ago. I recalled the scene in The Exorcist where the priest is performing the final, up till that moment, ineffectual exorcism of Linda Blair, and I think he's strangling her, and the devil comes into him, visibly comes into him, and shines out from his eyes, the green eyes of Satan. And at that moment, he has this moment of kind of wrestling with himself, and then he hurls himself through that window and down those stone steps. And that's exactly what I would do, right? I mean, honestly, like he everything I hope to be, everything I admire in myself and want to increase, and everything I'm depressed about myself and want to change, everything is pointing in the opposite direction from what Trump has fully actualized in himself. And it's just, so he is a kind of super stimulus to me. It's just, he is just.
Could I just make a really quick aside?
Yeah,
do you guys find it interesting that Atheism, the podcast, is bringing up The Exorcist as a way to refer to Trump?
Oh, I know. Totally.
That's all I have to say.
It makes total sense.
Well, it's fascinating because it perfectly explains Sam's animus. If he views Trump as like anti-Sam Harris, then he's viewing Trump as being so successful. What does that say about you if your opposite is able to succeed, become president? I mean,
but you're an atheist.
Of course, right. But
your whole identity is based around atheism, and it's like, but I have to use a Christian devil metaphor to refer to this person I hate. That seems a little bit hypocritical to me. I don't know, or at least a little bit silly.
Well, I don't know what other metaphor you use to describe the concept of this weird concept of him transforming into Donald Trump.
Well, I thought
just interesting.
If they did the Freaky Friday thing, I think it would be even more interesting because Trump would be in Sam Harris, and then Trump would be like, "Oh no, motherfucker, I'm gonna get you," and then he would come off as the same Sam Harris because he'd be totally obsessed with Trump and crazy.
Well, that would actually be really fascinating if the way it worked is that slowly Sam Harris, his mind would start to think the way Trump would, and Trump would start to think the way Sam Harris would.
I know, this movie would be amazing.
What a great movie that would be, yeah.
That would be really interesting.
But I do not believe for 1 second that Sam Harris would throw himself out the window if he became Trump, because instantly he'd be like, "Oh, I was completely wrong. Trump is a normal human being."
Well, this is obviously this tongue-in-cheek conversation.
I think he would be he would instantly be like, "Oh, I have all this power. Time for me to institute the things I believe in."
Totally.
Right? Yeah. Yes, he wouldn't throw himself out the window.
Yeah.
They Freaky Friday.
Completely disingenuous, Sam. We got your number.
Well, I'm assuming he's joking. I don't think this is. I mean, it's not like it's a real situation that could ever occur in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Come on, Sitch, we're having fun here. This is the part of the show where we beat up on Sam Harris.
I like Sam, even though he has TDS. Okay.
I like Sam too.
I generally have liked Sam as well. I just don't know why he's got this thing.
Yeah, the TDS thing is interesting.
Because he views Trump as the anti everything that he stands for, and if that person that's everything that you're not or that you're against can succeed, that tells you a dark truth about the world that you don't really want to accept.
I think it tells Sam a dark truth about himself.
Well, both of those things.
I think that's the problem.
Yeah, it's both of those things.
Because
the way you view the world is the reflection of yourself to some extent.
Right.
It's something we've accepted long ago, though. So it's just complete comedy for us. It's like, oh, Sam, the big brain Sam, finally coming to realize what the little people have known all along.
Calvin Lux for $4.99 says Sam is being totally honest about his moral intuitions, and that moral repugnance against Trump is 100% real, and it doesn't come from nowhere.
Yeah, it comes from his fifis. Sam, get in touch with your fifis. Fix it.
Convincing Reality for £10 says, when you say Trump is like a reality-defying, totalitarian, supernatural alien mob boss, that is all the worst parts of a human with an infectious mental illness But you definitely don't have TDS.
Oh my God.
True.
Oh, convincing reality for the win, man. That's so
That's a good point. There you go.
In person I can name,
It's
right? And
true.
again, I mean, honestly, it's like the invidious comparisons to someone like Osama bin Laden are honest. I do not feel the same way about Osama bin Laden, though I recognize the harms that he caused, based on his ideology. And obviously, I've said more than my piece against jihadism, but Osama bin Laden is as a person is far more understandable to me and far less reprehensible personally, psychologically, than Trump.
I think the way people.
Whoa!
That was.
Yeah, I know.
That was the quote number 2.
Yeah,
that was. Quote
there you go.
2. There it is.
Yeah, the guy who killed 3,000 Americans on September 11th. Oh, right. Totally more understandable than the guy that didn't kill anyone.
We just ignore it even? We all know that. Just wipe that off the slate. A man who was a terrorist who abused his own people.
Yeah.
To a degree we probably don't even know the extent of. Mm-hmm. He's better than Trump.
Yeah.
Just ignoring the fact that he killed 3,000 Americans, because there are still some people in the Middle East who think that was all justified.